It's been another week, which means it's time for another Road to Gold. Welcome to War Games on Toast, all of you lovely people. It's me, it's Toast. How are you all doing today? Road to Gold is quickly becoming my favourite segment of the week because it's just fun talking about stuff I've played and getting feedback from everyone who watches the videos. It's a lot of fun to do, and I am glad that the reception to it has been fairly positive. Now, that being said, last week things were a little bit busy and I only managed to squeeze in 2 games, but there were 2 pretty darn belter games, and I'm really excited to talk about them. Of course, I'm still playing Untamed Beasts, and if you were under the impression I've only been playing low-tier Warbands, well, that is about to change, because this week I played against Ironjawz and Ogor Mawtribes. But before we get into all of that, it's time for a little bit of shilling.
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
Please consider leaving a like, a comment, and subscribing, as that helps me fight against that dastardly YouTube algorithmic demon. And if you want to help in a more tangible way, then please consider signing up to my Patreon or my YouTube members, or using my Element Games affiliate link down below when buying some new WARCRY gubbins. A huge shout out to my patrons and members who you can find on screen now. Badoosh. But with all of that out of the way, it's time to get on with the show.
And now for something completely different.
And we are back, and this week I stuck to one list. I really wanted to sort of hammer in this one list and get as many reps as possible, which was only 2, this week at least, into this one list to really get a feel for how it works on the battlefield and how the pieces all work together. It's not a particularly exciting list. It is like the most like WARCRY competitive list imaginable, really, but the list is on screen now. But douche, I played it a little bit last week, and my first game came up against Ironjawz, and this was a TTS League game, and it was pretty darn difficult. My opponent had a pretty darn stacked list, having a War Chanter, a Mega Boss, and a Morgok, who's basically a hyper souped up brute boss. And yeah, the list was pretty killy, pretty durable, being of course Ironjawz, they are all T5 at a minimum. It was a pretty hard fight to go into, even though I did have my own fairly smashy stuff. My guys were less killy and less durable than his guys, and to top all that off, it was a pretty kill-centric mission called Killing Fields, which I'll put on screen now, badoosh. So going into this battle, I really had to think about how I was going to maximize my damage before my key pieces died, and how to do that in a way that is surprising to my opponent, right? Ironjawz are very slow. So my initial thought was they're going to put as many big hitters in the middle, control the middle, and then move out to control everywhere else. With that in mind, in my first deployment having a Foam Red Crusher on the board, the last thing he would expect would be for me to throw that Foam Red Crusher into combat with Morgok and a Mega Boss turn 1. That's a wild idea. No one's going to expect that. That's exactly what I did, and whilst neither of us could swing on turn 1 because of distances and all that good stuff, but at the end of turn 1 I was in base contact with Morgok and also out of charge range slightly of that Mega Boss to maximise the Foam Red Crusher's damage and survivability. And in the meantime I used my higher numbers. He had like a 6-man warband. I was packing an 8, so I spread out very wide everywhere else to take objectives and treasures and just do chaffy things, which he couldn't really contend with, at least at this point in the game. Even with all of that set up, you might think, damn, a Foam Red Crusher versus a Morgok and a Mega Boss, that ain't going to go well for you, buddy. That guy's going to die. But I had an ace up my sleeve, and that was pinning these guys close enough to my turn 2 deployment, where my reinforcements were coming on with a Vexmore and a First Fang. And that's where the trap was really sprung, because he just did not expect that on turn 2, and I invested all of my dice into initiative. I took initiative, Vexmore came on, and then the fun happened. I had initiative, the Foam Red Crusher came in, and he just walloped Morgok into near death. Near death, he didn't actually quite die yet. And of course, because my Foam Red Crusher is toughness 6, even with Duff Up the Big Thing, Morgok is still only hitting on a 4+, so the Foam Red Crusher didn't take all that much damage, even with the sheer volume of attacks that went into him. And then of course Vexmore came in and then completely flattened the guy, and that was the end of Morgok. And now I had 2 pretty darn healthy Titans with massive damage facing off against a Mega Boss for turn 3, and now the game was definitely turning in my favour. But not to ignore other parts of the battlefield, my Heart Eater and my Chaff just ran around and continued to be a pain in the ass, and there wasn't much the Movement 3 Ironjawz laddies could do, especially now that they were out of war range of that Mega Boss, who is now also dedicated into combat with my Foam Red Crusher and failed to kill him, who is now dedicated to a combat with the Foam Red Crusher and failed to kill him on turn 2. So going on to turn 3, I managed to steal initiative for a second time, which is just cheeky as all fuck. And the Foam Red Crusher being near death now, obviously taking hits from Morgok and a Mega Boss in one turn is going to really hurt even in Foam Red Crusher. The Foam Red just laid into this Mega Boss and left him nearly for dead. Now the Mega Boss did survive and he did kill the Foam Red Crusher, but now I had a Vexmore who just flattened the Mega Boss. And that was really the end of that, and that really secured the game because what did he have left? His main killy force in the center, which were designed to take the middle then spread out, died to my stuff. And at that point, what do? The plan was, I assume, to take the center, then spread out and apply pressure with his incredible damage profiles. When they both die, one of mine's still alive, and I've already got control over the rest of the battlefield because of my speed and numbers. How do you come back from that, especially now that you've also got a pretty hefty points deficit racking up? And the answer is, you don't, and the game basically ended there. We did play a turn 4, and I managed to kill off the War Chanter, and that was really the game. And my takeaway here is that, like, be bold, right? Be bold. Like, Mega Bosses are hilariously powerful. Morgok is a real threat. But statistically, the Foam Red Crusher is a better piece. And having the reinforcement engine of a First Fang and Vexmore, having that kind of power of my own on the board and scrapping in the middle, really plays into my favor because, again, you never want to brawl with a Vexmore, and that's what happened, right? I got my Vexmore to combat, and he just started laying down that smackdown. Now, I didn't really mention the First Fang in this game, but the First Fang was actually pretty darn pivotal because he was a safety net. That harpoon hitting on a 4+2/5 damage with up to 6 throws a turn and having no minimum range meant that if anyone didn't die, then the First Fang could lob a harpoon in and then likely land the last couple of wounds and land that kill, especially with 6 harpoons. You're looking at like an average of 9 wounds, which is not insignificant. That's like a quarter of both Morgok and the Mega Boss's health. So if I did get unlucky and things didn't die, he was always there ready to lay down the smackdown when he needed to. And he did. He killed the War Chanter, and I believe he also landed the last hit on Morgok technically. So that safety blanket, that redundancy built into that formation really helped this battle go in my favor. And when we zoom out to the chaff off, I had my Heart Eater, I had my Plains Runners against basically his Ard Boys. And Ard Boys are way better than Plains Runners. They will absolutely body Plains Runners. Good luck catching them. Plains Runners are really fast, really tricky, and a 2-4 profile on an Ard Boy is nasty. But I have Brute Resilience, so whenever I was caught, I would just Brute Resilience, take the blow, then move away. I don't think I lost a single Plains Runner that game because whenever they took damage, they reacted, then backed away and got tied up by somebody else. It was a cycle of Plains Runners just tying things up and taking advantage of their incredible speed in comparison to the Ironjawz, who lack speed without investing doubles on charge. So again, the takeaway here is that Ironjawz are a more powerful warband. They're a higher tier of warband than the Untamed Beasts, and that is just what it is. Like, Untamed Beasts are like mid-tier, or maybe even low mid-tier, and Ironjawz are up there. They're right up there as one of the most dangerous warbands in Warcry right now. So it's natural to be a little bit off-put, a little bit spooked in a more kill-centric mission when he has such a killy center to his force with that Morgok and that Mega Boss. But sometimes you just got to take a step back, grow some balls, and really look at the situation and go, right, what is he going to do? What's he likely to do in this scenario? And what does he not expect to happen? He wasn't expecting to be pinned by a Foam Red Crusher and then being hammered from a Vexmore from behind. And of course, initiative played a big role here, and I knew it would going into turn 1, so I banked on turn 1 specifically, so I had a higher chance of gaining initiative turn 2, and then turn 3 was just, luck of the draw. I just had initiative, it just happens that way. But turn 2 really was the deciding factor of the whole game. Grow some balls, take some risks, and don't be off-put by a perceived power imbalance. Going on to game 2, I was clashing with a pretty darn stacked Ogre list. We're talking Gut Lords, we're talking Ogre Bulls, or whatever they're called nowadays, or Bulls back in my day, and a bunch of Noblars, and it turned out, oh no, the number discrepancy was not massively in my favor because, well, Noblars are cheap. How do you deal with overwhelming damage and durability? You don't. You play your strengths and you try to play your game to maximize your potential whilst trying to factor in your opponent's strengths and weaknesses. So I know my guys are, for the most part, faster than his. Of course, Ogres are deceptively fast with Morpath. However, his Noblars are not, and his Noblars are also very squishy, and they are going to win him the game in any objective game. They are the thing that really wins Ogres games. It's not necessarily the Ogres, they are the distraction in an objective game. They want to get there, distract you from their squishy bits, and then kill you to gain model advantage. My whole plan here was basically to avoid the Ogres and kill off his Gnoblars, because once that happens, I have a model advantage, or a greater model advantage, and once I have a great enough model advantage, I dictate the game. Things happen on my terms, and there's nothing you can really do about it, because you have these big crushy guys who aren't maximizing their damage because they can't get into combat effectively. What do? I pull you in with that hook, and then I beat you to death with my pretty darn killy beaters, and I have the damage to kill Ogres, but I don't have the damage to scrap and brawl with Ogres, because those Ogres can one-shot Vexmore. Those Ogres can theoretically one-shot a Foam Red Crusher, so I needed to rejig those odds by maximizing my dice thrown at him whilst limiting the dice thrown at me. It's fairly basic, fairly simple stuff, but games are wild, and it's very easy to be like, ah, damn, what do I even do against this, right? I do this all the time. People do this all the time where they get a bit spooked by the perceived power of your opponent's list. This happens with Ironjawz. It happened more so here because of just the sheer raw power. And of course, the community-driven, just like osmosal fear of Gutlords being this murderous churner of death. And that's exactly what they are. So basically, in the early turns, I was keeping my distance, effectively measuring to make sure they couldn't just get in and start smashing, whilst maneuvering my fast pieces like the Heart Eater, the Plains Runners, and of course the First Fang was a bit slow, but he does have that ranged attack, which, you know, extends his threat quite substantially into positions where I can start threatening his Gnoblars. By the time turn 2, middle of turn 3 had come to its conclusion, his Gnoblars were basically all dead, and I'd lost a few Plains Runners. I sacrificed a couple Plains Runners to hold off the Ogre threat and to keep my big boys alive. But once that mid-turn 3 happened, he only had Ogres really left, and at that point, I was able to do things like just wait. So as Gutlord moved up to get into my Foam Red Crusher, some more Plains Runners were thrown in to tie up those Gutlords and stop them from really doing much. And then the big Wama Jamba happened. I lobbed a harpoon into a Gutlord and yanked him into Vexmore after the Gutlord had activated. And then the fun happened. A Crusher is mighty powerful with only one attack action because he had a more path to get in. This Foam Red Crusher laughed it off, turned around and absolutely bodied that Crusher. And Vexmore being Vexmore, man, Vexmore just one-tapped this Gutlord, and that was the end of that guy. He had one Gutlord left, and what do you do then? I have all my big hitters not in combat and mostly uninjured, and all I've lost is some Plains Runners who were strategically placed to annoy him so he couldn't get his big guys into my big guys until I wanted him to. And of course his Gnoblars were just kind of ground into paste. It was a very stressful, hard-fought game, even though the actual results were heavily in my favour, and it's very hard to relay that in a ramble about a game where you've won, right? But it was a very hard game. It required a lot of very careful movement, a lot of very precise measuring, and the careful application of chaff at key points to stop him being able to do what he wants to do. Was I did what I wanted to do, which was to get into his chaff and kill more of his chaff than he could kill of mine with my positioned roadblocks, and really sticking to the plan. I had a plan going into this, and I stuck to it, and unlike the last game, where it was grow some balls, taste some risks, go in, start smashing. But in this game, it was basically the complete opposite. Even though the mindset of I had a plan from the get-go and what I wanted to do, the actual execution was completely different. But in the end, it led to another dominant win against another super high-tiered warband. And that feels good, but it's really hard to shake the fact that I am running a Foam Red Crusher and a Vexmore in a list. And these are really carrying these games. In addition to that First Fang, the First Fang, my god, the First Fang is so fun. He is such a powerful utility piece, and he does so much for untamed beasts. He is the MVP of the actual warband every time. He is so fun. But the actual like reasons I'm winning these games is a mixture of tactics and having good stuff. And the good stuff is not that interesting. It isn't really synergizing with the untamed beasts in what they want to do, and it feels a bit dirty, right? I'm using the old yank and spank, right? Use the First Fang, pull something in, then spank them with the big old club or the big old Vexmore spear, and that's basically the game plan for how I'm going to engage in combat. Everything else requires more nuance, but it's hard to escape that, like, are you really playing untamed beasts when you are using such powerful pieces as allies, and it doesn't really feel that way often. And as a result, I want to try a different list. I know this list is worse, but I do want to give it a go. It's still an 8-man warband. It's a hearty at 2 Chaos Spawn, a First Fang, a Beast Speaker, a Chaos Fury, and 2 Planesrunners. And this list looks to be a lot of fun. The big issue is I lack damage, right? 4/4/2/4 profiles are a lot of fun. They can do a lot of damage, especially when you have 2 4/4/2/4s and a 5/5/2/5. Right, these guys together can blend and just put on pressure on a lot of things. First Fang being the First Fang's a lot of fun. The Beast Speaker is a Beast Speaker. He can whip the Beast to do more things. And that Fury, I like Chaos Furies a lot. This guy's not a beast. He's a treasure and objective dickhead. He'll just fly around and just be a pain. I've had a lot of success in other Chaos Warbands running one Fury as just a utility pain in the bum. And he has done so much work in that role. And for 95 points, I do think he is definitely worth that. I could theoretically drop him and take, I believe I could fit in 2 more Planesrunners if I did that. And you know, that might be the way to go. But this is the list I kind of want to dabble with next week and just see how it plays. I've played Spawn lists before. They've been on earlier Road to Golds. But this time running the First Fang and the Beast Speaker, this is the first time I've run them both with 2 Spawn. And we'll see how that works out. The 2 Spawn have the advantages. Having 30 wounds and movement 5 makes them very durable and very fast, and they're very blendy. This warband will basically be run around, be fast, and kill all their squishy stuff, and try to hide from the big stuff unless I can really gang up on it. We'll see how that works out. I don't feel particularly confident because I've lost so much damage by taking Spawn over Vexmore, Format Crushers, all that good stuff. But it is undeniably more of an untamed beast warband because I actually have beasts now. Hey, so we'll see how that works. But that's the video. A bit of a ramble again. I'm enjoying the rambles. I hope you're enjoying the rambles too. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any weird lists for untamed beasts that you want me to try out, and I will see what I can do. But until next time, lads, ladies, and everybody in between and beyond, ta-ra.
Groovy.
Hey all, and welcome to the post-toast credits. A massive shout out to my algorithmic demon slayers, Andy Morris, blah blah blah, the Head Knight of Paint, Heinz D, Long Run Hobbies, Lord Phylax, Maps, Sable Saber, Steph, Steve Bean, the Houston Toad, Tough Tootin' Baby, and Velas. A huge thank you for supporting the channel, and I will catch you all next time. Ta-ra.